What's up, everybody? It's Man of Low Moral Fiber here. My name's Luke, and today is October the 29th, 2015. We can see that there is a new patch to Borderlands 2 coming. I think this is excellent. You know, a whole 3 years after the game has been released, we're still getting updates to it, and I think that shows a real commitment to the product on the part of Gearbox. So that's pretty damn cool. First off, we can see that various balance refinements and tweaks have been made, with special attention given to Maya to make her more in line with other characters. Now, I'm going to be testing some of this stuff when I get home today. It hasn't happened yet, but we'll, give some of these more interesting ones a look when we do. Now, we can also see that the fastball has been added to Bull's loot pool. Automatically a good thing. This I don't really understand. DLC offers from Steam have been added to the in-game DLC menu. That doesn't affect me. I've never experienced this glitch with the Talk to Moxie objective in the Wedding Day Massacre DLC, but it's a good thing that they fixed that. Same with this cleaning up the bird glitch. They've just made some small glitch fixes like that, and so that's a good thing. I didn't know this was a problem, probably because I don't play co-op that often, but, whatever. Now, this is an interesting one, and it is very ambiguous. Gun-based splash damage will now scale correctly. I'm interested to see how that turns out. There was some stuff that went on during the $100,000 loot hunt that, messed with some splash damage a little bit, so it'll be interesting to see how that's fixed. This is a very interesting one for me. The Aquamarine Sniper the Aquamarine Sniper Rifle, I was going to say Sniper because that's one of my favorite ones, has been upgraded with the proper stats. It was previously incorrectly categorized as an SMG. I've mentioned this in previous videos. So now we'll be able to get an Aquamarine Sniper to actually drop from Butt Stallion, or more specifically, Gibbed. But, regardless, player location will now display correctly when being revived. That doesn't really matter, but I'm glad they're fixing it. French, Italian, German, and Spanish language versions of the game will now properly display critical hit effects, so that means there will be no censoring anymore, and, foreign language players will actually see heads explode and such. So that's pretty cool. Jack's Protective Probe will now take damage from Maya's phase lock ability. That's definitely a good thing. The Jack fight can be a little bit irritating with Maya because of that. Kill skills will now properly receive bonus modified by external sources, i.e. class mods, upon activation. That's pretty cool. Personally, I didn't know that was a problem. I definitely experienced the boosted follow-through bonus with my legendary ninja comm, and I feel like I experience a better killer bonus with my legendary sniper comm, but it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. This one's very interesting and will probably irritate some people, but I think it is a very good thing. Weapon abilities will no longer be retained when using the inventory to swap weapons during the weapon swap animation. This is the traditional and most common way that people quote-unquote merge weapons. I think it's fucking awesome that they're getting rid of that scrub shit. The color red will now be will now appear appropriately for players using the I'm gonna butcher this, Protonopia colorblind mode. So if people do suffer from this particular version of colorblindness, it's a good thing, but it doesn't affect most players. That said, you got to take into consideration all players, not just most players. Players will now have the option to choose a camera-based driving control setting. This I probably won't use, but I have friends that I know will, so I think that's a good thing. Badass stats will no longer display multiple of the same choice when selecting a badass rank. So this one is a fairly interesting one. Obviously, my badass stats are long broken. There were several badass stats that I never wanted to pick up, specifically shield recharge delay because it makes it harder to play melee zero, and maximum health because it can mess some things up. And unfortunately, the game's previous badass rank system has forced me into those stats, and that's one of the reasons why I never use badass rank. So if they put this in, I hope there's some way to reset your badass rank. If not, I'll do it by hand or, manually through PC tools. Anyway, tweaks to improve performance while navigating menu screens. This is pretty important. I know that some people with, rigs that don't run the game quite as well actually do see less performance in menus than they do in actual combat scenarios. And this is something that even I notice as well. I can tell sometimes that the menus aren't quite at 120 FPS, and so that's a good thing. Any performance increase or stability increase is always a good thing. The game will no longer become indefinitely paused if the status menu is opened when the HUD is not displayed. I don't necessarily think that would happen that often because, people don't hide their HUD that often, but, hey, it's a good thing for them to fix. This I don't really care about. It's not really that big a deal, but if they're fixing exploits, that's good. Players at OP4 and above should find easier games via matchmaking. That's definitely good. There aren't too many people still playing, but you should be easier able to find those that are, so that's a good thing. I don't really know what this is about. Bloody Harvest Candy, I guess that's a good thing. Users... Oh yeah, so this is a very rare glitch where if you switch your weapon right before traveling, it will show up with a white texture. If anybody else views it. It's not really that big a deal, but it's a good thing for them to fix. I guess that's a good addition. This is kind of funny to me because they call it a rare issue where object would appear to have a bright neon colored texture. I think it's a bit of a stretch to call this a rare issue. This happens fairly often. I'm glad they're fixing it though. It didn't really affect gameplay, but it's good that it's being fixed. That's good because sometimes I try to pick things up or use certain things and they don't show up quite right. I have to find like a certain angle to use certain chests and everything. So it's definitely awesome that they're going to make that a little bit better. This doesn't really matter that much. Various stability improvements, that's a good thing. I've never experienced audio dropout in some cases, but I'm glad that they're, fixing that as well. That's good, for Spanish players. Minor text fixes, so they're going to fix, certain corrections or mistakes, rather, in text, so that's good. Green quality corrosive and explosive Nova shields can now spawn in-game. That doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone uses green quality corrosive and explosive Nova shields, except maybe very early in the game, so whatever. McNally will now appear at the appropriate level in the mission The Bane. This one's kind of interesting. Drop rates for the Cobra have been increased. That's very, very good. Some people are going to be a little bit butthurt about that because they see the Cobra as a quote-unquote farmer's trophy. I think that is entirely fucking stupid, to see something that is entirely luck-based as that. But I think that's good. The Cobra's kind of a shit-tier weapon, but some people want it. I have a friend who said he was farming for it recently and asked me how easy it was to get, and I told him it was virtually impossible. So I guess it's good that they're going to up that. It's still not a reason to walk into the beatdown in my mind, though. Players will no longer be permanently slowed by the Sorcerer's slow skill. I have experienced this before, so that's definitely good. Yeah, I guess that's good too. I've never experienced that. Community Day heads and skins will no longer disappear from the player's inventory if they save quit before using them. I didn't know that that was a real thing, or that actually happened, but I guess it's a good thing, people don't want their skins to disappear. Torg weapons will now glow correctly. I was unaware that they were glowing incorrectly, but good stuff. Some skin customizations that previously did not drop from any loot source can now drop in-game. Doll Efficiency was one of these skins, among others, that didn't have any loot source. Specifically the Doll Efficiency one, though, some people wanted to actually have a chance to farm because it does look pretty cool. All items will now have impact audio when dropped from inventory or in the world, so that's pretty cool. You'll hear items drop and hit the ground now. Game difficulty scaling will now reliably return to the appropriate value after fighting raid bosses. This one's kind of interesting because people would go to Hyperius or Master Yi and then use the 4-player health scaling to farm tubbies or to farm vermi and everything. So this one's kind of an interesting choice, but it's probably for the best. You can still turn your difficulty to 4-player mode if you really want to with the help of an outside tool. Purple rarity rocket launchers will now use the appropriate material. If you'll notice, they were not using the appropriate purple skin in some cases, so that's good. Subtitles in the side missions My Dead Brother and Lost Souls updated for accuracy. I think that's a good thing. And I've never noticed this being wrong, even though I fought the dragons probably hundreds of times. Brood the Invincible's nameplate will now appear correctly. When I first saw this, I was like, Brood the Invincible? Is that a new raid boss? Are they adding a new raid boss? But no. It's just 1/4 of an existing raid boss. And then they made all of these hotfixes permanent. Specifically, this one's not that one. Hold on. The ones about the loot and the kunai are the important ones here. So, but there's some other good ones too. It's all good though, basically. Permanent hotfix, permanent hotfix, permanent hotfix. So basically you won't have to download these every time you turn on the game anymore. And so this is the good one here, permanent hotfix to increase the drop rate of legendaries across the entire game. That's a good thing. And then they also had the kunai one on here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. Yeah. permanent hotfix to an issue so that Deathmark can be applied more than once in a multiplayer game. So that's, very, very good. Permanent hotfix to an issue where Zero's deception ability would not activate properly when triggering the skill while firing and reloading a Tediore SMG. Huh. I didn't know that there was a problem with that, but apparently there was. Regardless, I'm happy that all of these changes are coming, and it's coming, way after Borderlands 2 is released. So that's pretty cool. It shows that, they're really committed to the game and its players and everything. So I'm going to leave this linked. I'm going to leave this linked in the, description here, and that'll be good. If you guys have any, comments and everything, I'm going to be testing all of these when I get home from work today, so I'm pretty excited about that. Tell me what you guys think about these. I think it's pretty damn cool. As always, guys, I thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you haven't yet taken the time to subscribe, please do so. I'd appreciate that as well. Otherwise, I do hope to catch you next time. Bye, guys.